The Cry in the Silence. The Franklin County disaster, November 1871. The town of Franklin, tucked into the mountains of southeastern Pennsylvania, barely visible on maps. This settlement of 217 inhabitants was surrounded by beech and oak trees. The forest was a dark combination of gray and green at all hours of the day. Winter here came early and stayed late. And the winter of that year was extraordinary. Even the sky seemed to have decided. The sun had not shown its face for weeks. The townspeople lived in harmony despite their poverty. A small church, a school, 2 shops, and the post office were the heart of the town. In everyone's eyes, the post office was just a place to receive and deliver letters. But the basement of the post office was a mysterious place where no one ever went down. On the coldest night in town, the night between November 23rd and 24th, the sky was silent. Even the wind had stopped blowing. When the clock struck midnight, the first smoke rose from the post office building. Then sparks flew from the windows. By the time the townspeople rushed out, the fire had engulfed the entire building. But what was most striking were the sounds coming from inside. Screams. Not just pain, but as if someone was screaming a song. A bell ringing, a door creaking, a child crying, all at once. The fire lasted until morning. But when the building was completely burned down, no bodies were found inside, no belongings. Everything was ashes. Everything. Except for one thing. There was a sentence that seemed to be written in black soot stains on the basement wall. We opened the door. Now we listen. 3 days after the post office fire, former postman Alan Jenkins was found barefoot in the center of town. His eyes were frozen, as if he had walked untracked in the snow. When the town pastor took Alan to church, he noticed that his hands were clenched as if he were holding a baby. But there was nothing in his palms. His eyes were fixed on one spot, and he could hear whispers. Even in the quiet room, it was as if someone was whispering in his ear. Although the doctor said he had suffered some kind of nervous breakdown, everyone in Alan's room woke up later that night complaining of nosebleeds, hallucinations, and nightmares. In the first week of December, children began to disappear. Every night, in one house, the child's bed was found empty, the outside door open, but no footprints in the snow. Each family swore they had locked the door. These incidents only happened at night. During the day, everything was normal. But at night, the forest was silent. The whole town was silent, as if a knot was caught in its throat. The townspeople took refuge in the church out of fear. Bishop Gregor prayed incessantly for days. In public, he spoke with fear, but with hope. This town is not cursed. We have awakened the curse. Then the church bells began to ring spontaneously at midnight. When people woke up and went up to the tower, the bishop's body was hanging upside down with the bell. His face was the purest form of fear. His eyes were gouged out, but his mouth was still moving. Those who approached heard him muttering something. He is listening. He keeps listening. Who was the listener? Years later, an ancient stone altar was found during excavations near Franklin's forest. The symbols on it belonged to an unknown language of European pagan cultures. It turned out that this altar had been built to imprison a being called a listener. On the altar was written the following sentence: "The voice is its door." So if someone made a strong enough call, the door would open. During renovations in the basement of the post office, the old wall collapsed, and a new foundation was accidentally laid on top of the altar. What happened after that was that the door opened. After the events, Ruth, the wife of postman Alan Jenkins, became a recluse, cut off from the outside world. The lines she wrote in her diary would later become one of the only sources for understanding what had happened to the town. December the 2nd, 1871. Alan has been back 3 days, but what came home with him is not Alan. I can't get his hands untied. They get tighter every day. One night when he was asleep, I wanted to untie his hands and look. But you know what I saw? Snowflakes stuck between his fingers. The window was closed that night. The window was closed. My God. And how? December 3rd. Tonight Alan spoke. Just one word. Listening. December 4th. I don't pray anymore because he is the only one who hears me. After writing in her diary for the last time on the night of December 6th, Ruth disappeared. Her house was empty, but the fireplace was still burning, and the cover of the notebook on the table closed by itself. He was never seen again. Walter Dempsey, one of the oldest men in town, told of digging near the church when he was young and came across some stones, but the priest stopped the digging immediately. On the day Ruth disappeared, Walter went for a walk alone in the woods and never returned. Her body was found a week later, but the body was not normal. The body was lying face down, but his eyes were open towards the tree behind him. It was as if the eyes had turned inside the head and were looking at the tree. All the while, there were freshly carved words on the bark of the tree. He told me a story. Now I tell it too. The rest of the townspeople continued to seek help in the church. But one night, after the bishop's death, Matthew, the curate, found a strange door in the church basement. What looked like a wall opened inward when he pressed on it with his hands. What do you suppose was inside? An empty stone room. But in the center of it, a spiral hole going down into the ground. And on the walls, symbols that looked like Latin, but no one could read. The last sentence carved on the inside of the door was this: "He who listens to sound learns being. He who knows presence can no longer thirst." After that night, Matthew wandered around the town at night, talking to himself. The townspeople chained him to the church. But the next morning, the chains were broken and Matthew was gone. Only one trace was left behind. A sentence written in blood on the altar stone of the church. I only tell about him now. A few brave young men decided to go into the forest and find the altar. One of them, the young and rebellious Thomas Harris, took a notebook with him. He wrote down his experiences in the forest, his last lines. "We have found the altar. It really exists. And it is strangely quiet. Even the wind doesn't want to blow. There are no birds. We think we hear our footsteps, but sometimes the sound continues even when we're not walking. The air has changed. Your throat hurts when you breathe deeply." But the strangest thing, we heard a sound coming from the depression above the altar, a whisper, all at the same time, in different languages, but with the same phrase: "Don't leave without listening." That night, 3 of the group returned. Thomas didn't. But his notebook was found at the entrance to town, and on the last page was a figure drawn as if in haste. A face without eyes, but the mouth, it was too wide, as if it had been created just to listen. The people of Franklin evacuated the town by the end of the year. Those who were left alone disappeared, went mad, or went silent. The state archives pulled a blanket over the town. Fire, economic crisis, and climatic difficulties were cited. The truth was buried. But something is still there, listening. And every time someone starts to tell this story, somewhere there is the sound of a breath piercing the silence. Because now he is telling it too.